We are now in the middle of football, which consumes and overwhelms everything. And yet, if you go to ESPN.com right now, on the headlines on the homepage, there's an A'ja Wilson headline, scoring 1,000 points in a season. There's a Caitlin Clark headline, setting the rookie scoring record, 35 points in a victory yesterday. What does it say about how much that league has changed and been taken to a new place that even in the middle of football season, you are thinking and talking about the WNBA, and I'm thinking and talking about the WNBA?
Okay, here's the deal. And this is the reality that I think a lot of people either don't want to accept or just haven't considered. This league now truly has bona fide superstars.
Yes.
Okay? Now, look, they've had star players, but when you're talking about a superstar, that is someone who transcends their sport and people know who they are, even if they don't necessarily watch them compete, right? And they have depth of stars in this league now. They've always had tremendous players. I mean, there are players 10, 20 years ago that could be playing right now and would be dominating with some of these recent all-stars. But they weren't stars outside of their sport. And I think social media has a lot to do with it. Like, you're able to learn more about these athletes than you would previously because it depended on media back in the day. If media didn't give your sport the attention, those stars couldn't show themselves. Those personalities weren't readily available. Now with social media, A'ja Wilson can be a star all by herself, or Simone Augustus, or Arika Gumawale, or Angel Reese, or Caitlin Clark, or all these different names you can throw out there, Skylar Diggins. They are stars now. They are going to the Met Gala. They are on covers of magazines. They are sitting courtside at NBA games. They are legit celebrities, these women are. And from that, you get the attention that you weren't getting 10 and 15, 20 years ago. It's unfortunate that it took this long, but I'm glad that it has arrived, because how well these ladies do what they do needs more attention. And A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark last night, two perfect examples. They both set records, right? And they are players that we may not see at this level for a long time compared to the other players in the league. A'ja Wilson may be the best basketball player in the world, right, compared to her competition right now, and that includes anybody in the NBA.
And one of the points I was making to Bennett last week is that A'ja Wilson was awesome last year and the year before. Yeah. You know, she's always been awesome, but I don't remember talking about her a lot last season. The whole league being elevated, mostly by the arrival of Caitlin Clark, but also just by this rookie class, has made, I think, people like me all over the country more aware of just everything than we otherwise would be. Now I find myself basically every week doing an A'ja Wilson segment, and I don't think I did any last year. That's the change that I find undeniable.
Well, inside the league, what happened last year? So A'ja Wilson won the MVP 2 years ago,
right,
but Brianna Stewart won it last year when she switched teams. And there was some conversation late that should Stewie win it or should A'ja get it again? But they gave it to Stewart, and that motivated A'ja this year, right? Regardless of the rookies that came in,
right,
that was the one thing that motivated A'ja more than anything, was not winning that MVP last year, and they gave it to Stewie. Now you bring in that extra attention, Gary, that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark brought to the league, and Cameron Brink and some of the other players on the draft this year. She's like, oh yeah, now we have more attention. Now let me really shine. So I think it's those two things put together have led to this season for A'ja Wilson, and I'm glad everyone's getting to witness it, because she is just ridiculous at what she does.
Now talk to me about the Indiana Fever.
I'm sorry, about A'ja. Two things. One, she's hysterical. She's very funny. Right. I've interviewed her a couple times on SportsCenter, and we had one clip go viral because she's talking about she wants Beyonce to do her residency after she went to see Usher. That was great. But then last night, after she scored 1,000 points, we ran a clip of her talking to her teammates, and she was very emotional. She was crying, and she was talking about how grateful she was that she had great teammates, and she was very, very revealing in saying that sometimes there are some days she actually hates being A'ja Wilson, but then coming to work with her teammates makes her feel better about herself. So she's so willing to share that aspect of her life that draws in people as well. You don't have to be a basketball fan to relate to something like that. And it's just one of those things that makes her so personable. And then you get that attention. And then, as you said earlier, it starts to just permeate throughout the rest of the league. You're seeing that so many of these women are dynamic in so many different regards.
So the Indiana Fever win again yesterday. They start the season 0-5, and it looks like it's going to be one of those years. They've now solidified, with one game left in the regular season, the 6th seed in the playoffs. They have beaten, at one point this season, everybody in the league except for the Aces. How realistic is it for people to think Indiana and Caitlin Clark can compete for a championship in her rookie season? Is that taking it too far, or is that a reasonable opinion to hold right now?
Well, I think if you're saying compete, you've got to go down to the wire with every team you play, even if you lose, and I think you've got to win a playoff series.
Okay.
That's really competing,
Gotcha.
right? But I think based on the overall depth of this league, and once you get to a playoff series, obviously you got to beat them more than once. I personally don't think it's that realistic based on the top 4 teams in the league.
Okay.
But where they are now compared to where they've been in a while, like they secured a 500 or better record for the first time, I think, in like 7 or 8 years, right? I mean, they had been struggling for a while. And so for a team that was struggling like that to come in with Caitlin Clark, as great as she was going to be anticipated as a rookie, to say that they're going to all of a sudden jump to the top of the league was absurd. Right. But the turnaround they've made since that 0-5 start has been very good. And it's not just her. It's Kelsey Mitchell. It's Leah Boston. So they got some depth on that team they didn't have in a while. Now, next year, you may be having a different conversation because the question will become, what moves can that organization make and what free agents now want to come to Indiana?
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.